starting. There's no gavel. Good morning, happy Wednesday. It's summer. I'm now going to call July 19th San Diego County Board of Supervisors Land Use Meeting, Flood Control District Housing Authority Meeting, and Sanitation District Meeting to order. As a reminder, according to the board rules and procedures, audience members should not whistle, clap, stomp feet, or anything that disrupts the proceedings. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Before I call the roll, I'd like to note for the record that Supervisor Anderson is participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be handled by a roll call vote. With that, I will now call the roll. Lieutenant Commissioner Barry.
Present.
Lieutenant Commissioner Higgins. Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here.
And Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas here. Thank you. We will now hear the statement of remote participation from Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. The first item will be for Supervisor Anderson to make a statement about participating remotely and state whether anyone over the age of 18 is in the room with them, as well as their relationship to the supervisor.
I will be participating in the board meeting remotely today per the provisions of the Government Code 5495-3 due to just cause for the following reason: the need to provide child care or child giving need of a child, parent, grandparent, grandchild, sibling, spouse, or domestic partner. And there's nobody in the room 18 or over.
All right. Thank you for that. We will now hear the report of actions that yesterday what we had in closed session. County Council, is there anything to report?
Yes, good morning. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session on July 18th from 2:58 p.m. to 3:47 p.m. The board took no reportable actions. End of report.
Thank you. We will now proceed with non-agenda public communications. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. The only action that the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Reminder, according to the Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments, which is 4 minutes. And to better facilitate the meeting, we'll have 5 speakers in person, 5 speakers via phone, and the rest of the non-agenda public communication items will be heard after the close of today's meeting. So, Clerk, can you please call the speakers?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 17 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. 4 individuals in person and 13 requesting to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak via phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Michael Brando, Robert Gurman, Baron Willis, and Truth. Please come forward in any order.
They all want me to go. All right, fine by me. This is Truth. And though my battle outfit is a little more extra fancy like ketchup, it always has a punk theme because I'm here to start a riot, a righteous invasion of truth, just like this pen right here says. Now, Nora, no gavel. Things are really getting better around here. I like it. I got random stuff to say today, just real talk. All right. I noticed that yesterday the volume of the live stream was increased, so thank you to the county staff for doing that. It was a little bit staticky though. The minutes, I have a question. Other than non-agenda, why do the minutes not reflect people's comments and positions on items? And why can't the public provide comments on the minutes as item G? Actually, love reading minutes, and wouldn't you want to stay at these meetings much longer if we talk about the minutes too? All right, I noticed that in the county women's bathrooms, female hygiene products made of organic cotton are offered for free. And next to the machine is a sign that proclaims something called menstrual equity. I don't pretend to recognize such a new invention. That's a conundrum fit only for the circus world, of course. Those of us living in the real science-based world, just look at that sign, laugh, and take a few products that our tax money paid for. All right, do you guys remember when there were hundreds of people at these meetings? Do you miss that? It's dwindling to nothing because people have given up and lost faith in you as representatives. That's the truth, and but for whoever's given up, I recommend you go to your local city council meeting and make change there, because it is possible. And if you're like me, you can do the same thing at Sandag's meeting tomorrow at 8 a.m. And you could talk to Nora 2 days in a row like me. I love her. 3 days, I guess. And I actually look forward to those meetings. It's a much better atmosphere than here. I've got a lot of friends, too. Oh, I don't have time for this story. That's too bad. So what other stuff can I run my mouth about? I don't know. Well, it's always good to see you guys, I guess. I like Sandag more, but this is my second favorite. I like the more relaxed atmosphere. Thank you.
Good morning. Robert Gurman from Lakeside. I'm here to compliment the Board of Supervisors and say thank you for initiating and appropriating money for the County of San Diego Airport's Sustainability Management Plan and asking for public participation. We had it on Monday, and we had the public from Alpine, Lakeside, Santee, La Mesa, El Cajon. We had pretty much a full house, and everybody got to voice their opinion. Yes, everybody got to voice their opinion, and I'll leave it at that. But I do want to say thank you, and it should come out of the airport's money because ultimately that's where the concerns are generating from. So it shouldn't come out of the general fund, but thank you very much.
Good morning, Supervisors. Barry Willis with San Diego LAFCO. I'm here to call attention that you may have seen this presentation before by Fire Chief Joe Napier. I want to just, Savannah's passing out the flyers. I want to just put your attention, I've only got 2 minutes. Put your attention towards page 4. At the bottom of the page, it shows Valley Center Fire Protection District, 2.03% of the 1% of the property tax that's given. Now, you have to ask yourself, when county fire gets 6% of the 1%, does this 2.03% make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me, and that's why I'm here to talk about it. Why is this not a priority? This amounts to about $592,000 of their budget. What if there's a massive wildfire and they don't have the resources that they need? And by the way, we're talking about $2 million, 0.01 of 1/1700th of your budget, $2 million to bring them up to that 6% funding of 1%. So what's the holdup? Why is this not a priority? Why haven't you put it on the agenda unless it's political? But if it's political, is it the right thing to do to get this and get this fixed, to give them the adequate resources that they need? So when I voted on LAFCO, I voted for, I know I'm running out of time, I voted for county fire to handle the rural areas and situations like Borrego's fire district. But I did not vote for them to become a big behemoth that wrests control from the local districts in certain ways. That's not what I voted for. Thank you for your time.
Michael, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things themselves that you look at change. That's a quote by Wayne Dyer. One more quote. Subjugating your needs for a long period of time to help fulfill those needs of those who don't care about your needs leads to resentment and repressed anger. That's a quote by Anita Moorjani, who wrote a great book called Dying to Be Me. And it kind of dovetails with what Truth said. A lot of people have just given up in despair about thinking any change can happen. But the truth is, change can happen from the inside out. When this board uses terms like stakeholders, most people back here think that you're talking about them, but stakeholders have to do with all the business contracts and associations that you guys are involved in. We have to be our own stakeholders, and that's where the true hope resides. I want to mention again this great program being streamed online called The End of COVID. The End of COVID. If you go to theendofcovid.com, there's fantastic presentations. They're all free right now about what's gone on for the last 3 years. And I just found out that this fella, Mark Gober, who's written about 5 books, is actually doing one of the presentations. It's presentation number 29. He wrote this great book called An End to Upside Down Liberty. Check it out, theendofcovid.com.
Thank you. Now we will hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we will begin with our first caller.
Hi, Katrina Priest. Good morning.
You may begin your
I'm
comments.
a parent. Yes, good morning. My name is Katrina Priest. I'm a parent of 3 teens and a middle school teacher, and I live here in the North County unincorporated area, and I do attend my county planning group. Since it's summer, I figured it was my chance to express my dismay at the county's proposal to bring more marijuana cultivation and storefronts to our beloved backcountry. The county seems to see increasing the number of marijuana businesses as an opportunity to provide those disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs with a job. This is misguided in so many ways. The majority of my students are Latino Hispanic students. This is not what Latino Hispanic parents want or aspire to for their students and children. I would respectfully suggest that marijuana storefronts and their pervasive advertising and billboards are clearly marketing their products to youth as a solution for sadness, despair, fear, and apprehension. Our county funding would be more wisely spent on youth aged 12 to 20 by providing tutoring, mentoring, internships, and job training opportunities. That is the real answer to social equities, not pot shops. And our students need access to mental health services that are affordable and available. For those who are on the front line of students' mental health, like myself, we need to underscore the role that marijuana plays in aggravating mental health. This is the wrong time to expand the influence and prevalence of marijuana businesses in San Diego County. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Gosh, 20 minutes, almost 20 minutes. Late, no gavel. What's going on, Queen Bee? I mean, yesterday you're talking Spanish in the chambers, no translator. Many people didn't know what the hell you were saying. Again, I guess I'm going to have to remind you, as I do a lot of these meetings, this is San Diego, California, not Tijuana, Baja California. Get that, sister? You're in America. What else did I want to say? Another thing, you had absolutely no right to hush Mark Dorian and myself. We were in the audience. We weren't disrupting anybody. You didn't like that we weren't paying attention to you, Queen Bee. And I don't mean the bug. You need to just check yourself. And again, this is not, you work for the people. Get that. And then not only that, the hypocrisy. You yourself were talking while people were at the podium. It's like, oh my gosh, you're such a hypocrite. You're just so petty. And I have to counter you with more pettiness, I guess. One thing I did want to point out to, now seriously speaking, to the women who passionately call about the marijuana stuff, I really wish you all would get that it is government that creates these people's dependency and wanting to, having to resort to escaping to drugs. And I don't even consider marijuana a drug. I mean, gosh, people die of synthetic drugs left and right that are being prescribed by quote-unquote doctors. So let's just be real. I don't know exactly the beef regarding, I guess it's like you guys are about.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors and Chair Nora Vargas. First of all, I'd like to say I'm sorry the way you were just spoken to, and also for the previous speaker that said people are dying from opioids, and, you know, I just need to ask her, where does she think it all started? It doesn't start with heroin. It starts with marijuana. That's where every single bit of drug use starts. So please remember that. Anyway, I'm Nancy Logan, and I obviously work with schools and PTAs and public health education and prevention programs, especially around tobacco and marijuana vaping and smoking. I care about the health and safety of our teens and young adults, and obviously I oppose the proposed expansion of marijuana businesses in our backcountry, especially because at its core, it will change the number of marijuana storefronts, a most unnecessary measure it is this day of deliveries. And it breaks the promises made to stakeholders, parents like me, community members who volunteer in their community and attend their planning groups. We were promised that our county would care about the mental and physical health of our teens and young adults who across all demographics during the most critical time in their lives most need the county to spend their funds on cleaner and safer neighborhoods, parks, and community centers, rather than financially enable marijuana businesses. Funding for this proposal is colossal and seems very unfortunate when our young people are already challenged by marijuana businesses' predatory and pervasive advertising firepower. Not one county planning group member asked for the Board of Supervisors to spend.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Terry Ann Skelly, and I work in public health and youth mentor and tutoring programs. My youth mentor and tutoring programs in the county include teens from very diverse backgrounds. I'd love to share and tell you a little bit about their successes. On their behalf, I came to share with you some important public health information I received this morning. African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council released more excellent research regarding, and I quote, big tobacco strategically targeted Black and the deadly consequences. Now they are taking a close look at the role of big marijuana as well in creating health inequities through their promotion of smoking and vaping, especially those products that have candy-like appearances and taste. This research is led by Dr. Mignon C. Guy in the Department of African American Studies at Virginia Commonwealth University, where she teaches courses on health inequities in Black populations. Dr. Guy's research centers on cancer and chronic disease-related health inequities among minority populations. I respectfully suggest that the county's marijuana business expansions, which seems to be based on perceived inequities, is not based on sound research regarding physical and mental health inequities and needs far more extensive research than we've seen to date. On behalf of public health educators, we thank the county for its tobacco retailers ordinance and its support for AB 1207. Thank you for hearing me this morning.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and Supervisors. My name is Becky Rapp, and I'm a parent and a public health educator. Because of the proposed expansion of marijuana businesses in the backcountry, which I am opposed to, I wanted to share with you a concerning annual report the International Narcotics Control Board, or the INCB, recently released. They stated, in all jurisdictions where cannabis has been legalized, data shows that cannabis-related health problems have increased. It pointed out that global medical admissions related to cannabis dependence and withdrawal has increased 8-fold, and admissions for cannabis-related psychotic disorders have quadrupled worldwide. We are experiencing this in San Diego County, as our own emergency departments see an average of 40 people per day who are suffering from some kind of marijuana-related complication. The INCB goes on to express concern that the growing industry is fueling the shift to even greater use of the drug by advertising their products, particularly to young people, in ways that lower the perception of risk. We, too, are experiencing this firsthand in our county, as billboards are prevalent in unincorporated areas, especially near the 5 existing marijuana stores already permitted. These billboards have been seen in front of affordable housing, shopping centers, and community intersections, specifically targeting our youth. It is my hope that this board recognizes these harms and considers an ordinance prohibiting all billboard advertising and slowing down and considering not expanding the marijuana businesses in our backcountry. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. And again, for all the remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Thank you. We will now move to the Housing Authority agenda. I want to welcome our Tenant Commissioner, Bianca Berry, to the dais. Thank you for being here today. And the first item on the Housing Authority agenda is the approval of the minutes, statements of proceedings for the regular meeting of June 14, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. We're going to go to public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. So, okay, we'll call the vote.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Commissioner Berry?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
And Chairwoman Vargas?
Vargas, aye.
And that motion passes unanimously with all commissioners who are present voting aye.
All right, we'll now move on to Housing Authority item number 1, approve fiscal year 2022-2023 Housing Authority budget adjustment. Can we call the speakers for public comment first?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 4 total requests to speak on this item, 1 individual in person and 3 requesting to speak by phone. I'd also like to note for the record, we did receive 1 e-comment on this item, which was in opposition. For any of the members of the public that have requested to speak on this item by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using those instructions that were provided to you. But we will begin with the in-person speakers, and I'd like to invite forward Truth. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Alrighty, it's true. This item says the County Housing Authority serves approximately 23,000 individuals. But why isn't there an exact number? The money isn't free, so if we can't get accurate numbers on how many people are being served, then I'm going to demand an audit right now. Despite that, questionable information. The federal government's doling out more money, $9.3 million to the state via the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So that added funny money, it puts the Housing Authority's new budget at over $247 million by my count. It's a big chunk of change to not even be able to track with clarity. This item says the money's increased due to the increased cost of housing assistance payments, driven by the overall increase in the rental market. That makes sense, but why is that the case? Because we have decisions such as the City of San Diego passing a tenant displacement ordinance requiring landlords to pay for someone's move, which makes them not want to rent out their property, which decreases the number of homes for rent, and which finally increases the price of the fewer homes available for rent. We also have supervisors here at the county who have implemented vehicle miles traveled fees on home developers, costing them millions just in fees to maybe get their project approved and maybe even get disapproved later. These types of short-sighted, agenda-driven decisions are also part of why homelessness has increased by 22%. That's according to the county. And another unsettling fact of this item is, quote, The County Housing Authority provides higher payment standards to allow participants to move outside areas of higher poverty to neighborhoods with greater opportunity, end quote. So first, so much for beggars can't be choosers. Apparently they can. Second, who qualifies for a better neighborhood and who doesn't? Maybe they won't even feel they fit in surrounded by wealthier neighbors. Overall, most landlords see right through these rental assistance programs, and that's why they reject the county's offer of a rental income bribe.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, when it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll begin with our first caller.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I wanted to thank you very much for putting this through. You know, your documentation said that you're going to increase the rent by 21%. But what it doesn't tell you is what percentage now of their income do people spend? Are people currently spending 50% of their income, and it's going to go down to 30%? Or are they spending 90% of the income and it's going down to 70 or something like that? So that wasn't actually shown anywhere. And of course, the reason you guys have to do this was because the city of San Diego got sued for not doing this. You guys are doing this ahead of time, which is totally fabulous. So thank you so much for that. And then, of course, the way that you could stop all these private landlords from making all this extra cash when they're not doing anything extra, they don't have any extra cost, is to actually create public housing instead of relying on private landlords that are just going to jack up the prices, at least 10% each year. It's just going to go up and up and up unless you guys have a different way of doing things. And a different way of doing things would be actually creating public housing. And thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, and we'll go to our next speaker.
Oh, Catherine, I just love you. You're so sweet. Yeah, as always, this board will do exactly what they're supposed to do and not what the people want. And also, since anything goes, apparently at this meeting today at Circus Vargas, I wanted to address the lady. My point flew over your head. It was actually, that was not my point. Yes, marijuana, I mean, you can believe that. There are thousands and millions of people who smoke the stuff and have not gone any further than that. But it's government that causes all the stress and for people to have dependency and resort to things like that. So once you guys start talking about that kind of stuff, then perhaps, more people will listen.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
I would like to know why it says that this increase is for the 22-23 year. I don't know, whatever. Anywho, I mean, we already are in July, so it's like, is this for last year and we're just, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, yeah, you guys, I'm just curious also to know who gets this. Are you dictating who actually would get the assistance? And obviously you have to do it because there's all these other things coming down the pipe from other cities and all the homelessness. And so we need to act like we're, really helping the people and not just displacing them and making sure that they don't have a home. But yeah, it's just interesting because, there's so many people that actually need the help. You could be doing other things as opposed to giving assistance because you're upping all the, if you didn't raise the tax, add more fees, all of this stuff, you wouldn't actually have to provide assistance for people. And only a certain amount, right? It's only some people that get it. It's the other ones, if they don't check off enough boxes, they're not going to get that help. But yeah, it's good. You know, you guys are very good at pretending to do stuff. I'd like to actually know how many people will get this help, or if, you know, this was just for last year and you're pretending that it's going to help people, but nobody's really going to see the money, right? Except for maybe like a nonprofit, like CEO or something like that. It's good. It's good to see that. I mean, because Nora, you love money, so it's like, I mean, $9.3 million is, you know, quite a lot of monopoly money. It's not a whole lot, I mean, compared to the $1.5 billion, but, you know, it's some pocket change. And so, you know, you can see how you're going to, like, spend it and just, you know, do whatever you're going to do. So good. I'm just proud.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
I'm really thankful to the administration for providing this additional funding, and I'm excited about what we're going to be able to do with it. This exact funding incentives is the kind of programs that we need to be able to move forward. And so with that, I'm happy to make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any additional comments from my colleagues? Nope. Seeing none, please call the vote.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Commissioner Berry?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
And Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all commissioners who are present and voting aye.
Thank you. All right, with that, thank you to our Lieutenant Commissioner Berry for being here today. We appreciate you. We're going to take a 3-minute recess so that we can allow the change in the dais, and then we'll continue on with the rest of our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Team, are you ready to start? Yeah, you're good? Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda, we're going to move on to our land use agenda. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minute statements of proceedings for the Sanitation District meeting and Flood Control District meeting of June 27, 2023, and the regular meeting and Flood Control District meeting of June 28, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. You have a second. Motion and a second. Can we go ahead and call the vote, please?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman Vargas. Supervisor Anderson? Supervisor Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lawson?
Oh, I'm sorry, aye. I'm, there was a little confusion on my part, sorry.
No problem at all. I got you for an aye.
Excellent.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer? Aye. And Chairman Vargas?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present, voting aye.
Okay, we'll now proceed with the formation of our consent calendar, items 1 to 7 from the Flood Control District Item 1 and Sanitation District Item 1. Members of the public will be able to comment on the consent calendar after the supervisors will pull any items they would like for discussion. Would any of my colleagues like to pull any items for discussion? Supervisor Anderson?
No, not, this is for flood control, correct?
This is for all of the consent items from 1 to 7 and flood control.
Oh, I don't want to pull anything, but I would like to speak if I may.
Of course.
On item 6, I wanted to thank Vice Chair Lawson Reamer for her work on this item. I'd love to see this program explored throughout the entire unincorporated area. The VMT rules would still be in place, but we have folks just outside the infill areas who want to be able to self-certify. So I really don't want to limit the potential of this action. I would ask if the supervisor would be open to a friendly amendment, and what the amendment would say is, under item 1, direct the chief administrative officer to develop options for expanding the plan self-certification program in alignment with the county's transportation study guidelines. So simply, we would just remove within the infill and VMT efficient areas and include the rest. So it'd be a very simple. I think that we provided a copy that you all could look at. And then if Supervisor Lawson Reamer would be open to that, I'd like to have that amendment. And then in item 7, I just wanted to point out real fast, Larry Johnson, the president of the Mountain Empire Historical Society, is in attendance today, and I wanted to thank him for all his hard work in helping put item 7 together for the backcountry. So with that, that's where I'm at.
Okay. Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. I have a number of comments on item 6, but before that, I can just reply to supervisors. Happy to accept the friendly amendment. I think options are great. I think I'd love to see, what's the best way to move forward? I think we should absolutely look at the whole area, not just infill, but I'd be really interested in, are there things that we could do quicker and things that might be slower? So sort of like what makes the most sense that we could really fast track, and some things that might need like longer to phase in, because I know we have some solar programs that might be sort of like more ready to go. There might be larger projects that might not make as much sense in the short term. So I love the idea of options. Happy to accept the amendment, but just with the clarification that I really will be very interested in sort of like phasing and choices.
Just for purposes of, so that everybody knows, Supervisor Anderson, you're making a motion to accept the consent calendar with an amendment to item number 6, and the amendment is to direct the Chief Administrative Officer to develop options for expanding the plan self-certification program in alignment with the county's transportation study guidelines. Is that correct?
Yep.
That is correct. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay with?
I'm absolutely happy to accept it. I just wanted to kind of, I have some other comments on this item, but just in terms of that, I think it will be really helpful to have various options of like, what does this mean and how can we do this in a way that makes the most sense?
Do you mind if I just have her go ahead and do the comments?
Go ahead.
Okay. Why don't go ahead and do your comments?
So thank you to my colleague for your focus on this item. It's been something that we've been working hard on. I'm really excited about it. We all know that we have a longstanding housing shortage in San Diego County, and one of the most important things that we can do is cut through red tape and really accelerate the time from concept to permitting to construction. And when there's a lot of roadblocks in places that we already know it makes sense to build, we already know we need housing, we're just tying our hands and feet. And so what this is really about is accelerating those timelines and really allowing people to get to work. We approved the Removing Barriers to Housing package in May, which created the guaranteed timeline for building permits, and this is another step forward to complement those efforts. I know we launched a self-certification program back in 2019, but it hasn't been used, and that's been 4 years where it hasn't been used. So even though there's a lot of interest in self-certification, something's not working with the way our current program's designed, and we really need to go back and take a look and talk to stakeholders and see how do we do this in a way that makes sense, because we know the city of San Diego is working to develop the program, and Phoenix and Chicago have had programs for over a decade that have been very successful. For example, Phoenix
processed over 500 self-certifications last year, and building permits can be approved in a matter of days. So I'd like to see us get there. You know, and the places that we already know are in alignment with our transportation study guide. Let's unlock the opportunities. Just a couple notes. I do want to make sure that we don't go in two different directions as the City of San Diego designs their program and we design our program. To the extent possible, it would be good if they're in alignment. So, we don't have lots of different hurdles in different jurisdictions. Like, let's make this simple, not complicated. And so being in alignment with the City of San Diego, where it makes sense to do so, I think is a real overarching consideration. And I also just want to point out, we talk a lot about housing. That's obviously top of everyone's mind, top of my mind. But this is not just limited to housing projects. It could also help our overall backlog in smaller projects like solar panels and solar panel permits, people who want to put solar panels on their house. Like, how do we make that happen? Or small commercial tenant improvements that could also utilize a self-certification lane. So really excited that we could build on what we brought forward on removing barriers to housing and trying to align with other regional programs. And thank you for the support of my colleague in this endeavor. And it's a second.
All right. Thank you so much, Supervisor Desmond.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate the conversation and the input and the amendment for item number 6. And thank you, Supervisor Lawson-Remer, for bringing this forward. I think it's a great idea, particularly with the challenges we face with housing and taking a step out. If we can do that across the county for discretionary permit process, well, for getting these, I guess, this is more of a sign-off, I guess. There's self-certification. They still have to go through the CEQA and VMT, and developers are still going to have to go through the discretionary permit process. So I appreciate that effort and fully support. On item 5, this is a Village View Park in Fallbrook. I want to thank Brian Albright and his team on Parks for not only keeping this project alive in these challenging economic times, but moving it forward into construction. Fallbrook is both underserved for park space and active recreation amenities. So keeping Village View Park on schedule with the original scope is incredibly important to the community, and I just want to say thank you once again.
And I think the only item that I wanted to check in on is item number 4, which is the proclamation for the local emergency. I just want to share that we've been able to send letters to both Governor Newsom, the Biden administration, and also have been speaking with Governor of Baja California, Maria del Pilar Avila, on this item. And then both Vice Chair Lawson-Remer and myself have turned in over 3,000 signatures to the White House so that we can make sure that we urge them to declare this a federal state of emergency. And so we're going to continue on with this item, and I appreciate my colleagues supporting it as it really is impacting our region, particularly during the summertime. So with that, we have a motion and a second. Now we're going to open up for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Vargas. We have 6 total requests to speak on items on the consent calendar, 2 individuals in person, and 5 requesting to speak by phone, so 7 total. Any members of the public that have requested to speak on the items on the consent calendar, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Hannah Gibe and Truth. You have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the record.
Okay, according to Ms. Oliver Twist, this is the queen of research, Truth. Item 1, let's just eliminate the Traffic Advisory Committee and their $8,300 traffic signs. Otherwise, there's going to come a day when the speed limits are reduced so much, walking will be faster than driving. Item 2, it's pointless that the county let the Blossom Valley Road extension in Lakeside sit unaccepted since 1993. Item 3 is over $6.6 million for the Department of Public Works solid waste planning and recycling programs. State demands 2 trust funds for the beverage container and the used oil recycling programs that will cost the county up to $100,000. Fun fact, all those beverage containers people recycle for money is actually just money the state charged everyone as a CRV tax. You're just getting some of your own money back. It's fraud. Item 4 is a continuation of the proclamation of a local emergency over the toxic water coming from Mexico because it's the only way to get those federal debt dollars. Item 5 is $8.6 million in state debt dollars to pay for a single Village View Park in Fallbrook. Surprisingly, the urban greening grant requires good things like a play area, dog park, skate park, picnic areas, and restrooms. But the problem is that construction prices have increased to over $11.3 million. So now in order to keep the state grant, the county's got to pay more. It's pay to play. Item 6 references a historic homelessness surge. What are you guys talking about? Just sustainable tents on hot asphalt for all. And if you supervisors really want to stop housing production, then, stop the falling short of the housing production, then stop the housing development fees. If you remove the infill and VMT requirements from the self-certification program, that would also help contribute to a real pro-housing jurisdiction. In item 7, it's supposed to be $16,000 for 8 signs for 4 bridges in East County, but Joel's recommendation shows only $12,000 being allocated, so check that error out.
Good morning. My name is Hannah Bay. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs at the Building Industry Association of San Diego County. The Building Industry Association of San Diego County represents the majority of home builders in the County of San Diego and the tens and thousands of residents that are employed in the home building industry. Our region is in a severe housing crisis. San Diego's own 211 reported that 14,592 individuals in San Diego County identify as homeless. 211 also reported that 70% of the residents reported in their needs assessment that housing, immediate housing, is their #1 need. Realtor.com states that in June 2023, the median house price in San Diego is $1 million. The reason the home prices are so high in our region is because the government refuses to allow us to build more homes. And the only solution to the housing crisis is to build more homes, a lot of homes. Hundreds of thousands of homes. We need these homes now. Today's proposal will help alleviate the regulatory burdens to create more housing. And for this reason, the Building Industry Association asks you to vote yes. And we are very grateful for the amendment to extend this so that additional areas throughout the unincorporated county can access streamlined regulatory requirements. So thank you today to the Board of Supervisors. You actually made me amend my entire speech, so very good. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll begin with our first caller.
I'm just concerned and confused. Nora, how is being in contact with Baja California of benefit to the people of San Diego County? And Tara is so excited to tax and screw the people over more and more, accelerating the timeline, another step forward to have things be ready, and in alignment with UN Agenda 2030. Of course, you people are indeed in alignment with fooling and manipulating the people of this county.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Paul Henkin, there were up to 14,000 homeless. The title on building more housing faster sounds like an instant gratification thing. Make the people think that you're doing something to build houses, but you're not. All you're doing is adjusting the permitting process. The actual building will still take the same amount of time, and the housing deficit will continue. I think the grand jury report said it all. The county failed to meet their housing allocation for all income levels. The county was supposed to build 22,000 plus housing units, but built only 6,000, citing lack of transit jobs and services. The gaslighting continued, so did the homeless and affordable housing crises. no mention of permitting in the report. So is this a new excuse? You seem to be ignoring the fact that some houses can now be built much more quickly, so that bureaucratic issues like permitting shouldn't matter as much. You could build or create housing quickly, perhaps through the use of 3D printed houses, or other things like shipping container houses that are cheaper than regular housing and a lot faster to build. Even adobe or concrete houses are faster than wood frame. Creative solutions like this will get you out of the housing deficit. Constantly tinkering with bureaucratic BS won't. So please provide housing, not just permits, and rethink this thing, and maybe take it off the calendar. On the Mexico thing, I don't know why the agenda title isn't clear. This item is about continuing.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I was calling regarding item 4, the local emergency for the United States-Mexico Trans-Boundary Solution Environmental Crisis. Thank you for doing this. And again, what I'll say is what I tried to say at the SANDAG meeting. I believe that the way you're doing things now is just going to be the same as what you've always done. And what you're doing now is you're waiting for the EPA and the International Boundary and Water Commission to forward projects and build them. They don't really do that. So my recommendation to you guys, since 2 of you are on the SANDAG board, is to have these projects for the wastewater treatment plant, instead of going to the International Boundary and Water Commission, or all the money going to the EPA, money actually goes, you guys at SANDAG take this project over. And then what you would do is very similar to what you did with the Otay Mesa East project, where you created a new way of putting forward projects to actually be built. And so I think that if you SANDAG took over the money from the EPA and the International Water Commission, you could actually start construction. So far, you haven't started construction. You got the money, I don't know how many years ago. Nothing has actually started, ever. And now the International Wastewater Treatment Plant broke down and has to be fixed, probably with this money that they have right here. And then also, if you would be taking over that area, and this is something you probably would need to do with an act of Congress or whatever, maybe you guys could actually take over, SANDAG could actually take over the building of the border wall by Friendship Park, so we could actually have.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Love when you guys add fees for things that we already paid for. It's so great. I mean, but that is smart. You know, you really get people. And proclaiming this local emergency. Love that you're doing business with Mexico, Nora. But it's so funny that you're like, let's keep doing business all while they're polluting our water and not do anything about it, but like go to the federal government and have them pay for it, which is our people's money, instead of saying, listen, Mexico, we're not going to do business with you until you knock that shit off. Until then, nothing's going to happen. But you guys are like, no, we got to have cross borders and we need to keep doing business. You guys are making faulty mistakes all the time, because this is like ridiculous that you allow that to go on. And the fact that this whole Fallbrook project exceeds the budget by $7.848 million, good job. And let's just give it to them. I mean, right? And, yeah, building more homes. You guys are so fantastic. You're like, we need to build 22,000 homes annually, and we're on target because we have 6,700 homes that are going to be finished in 2029. What? You guys act like you'll never accomplish 22,000 homes annually. And in 2 years, you permit 3,337. So it's like, you guys set up all these roadblocks. That's why none of the building gets done, especially in the unincorporated area with your whole VMT stuff. And you change all of this stuff all continually. So things never can get done in a timely manner because all of a sudden, one day it's this way, and the next day it's that way. And so now I got to go and mitigate constantly, never allowing any projects to get done. You guys fail miserably at it, but you act like, just like Paul was saying, as long as you say, like, we're going to be doing this to make it quicker, then it's just all smoke and mirrors. But you're telling people that they don't have to see the results. They just need to hear you guys say you're doing something right and getting money, and we're...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker. And just to note for the record, that caller was Audra.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and Board of Supervisors. My name is Angeli Hoyos, speaking on behalf of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, whose mission is to make the region the best place to live and work. We appreciate Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer for bringing this board letter forward and for the entire board's commitment to addressing the housing shortage. We also want to thank the PDS department, Director Zavia Lynch and her team for their commitment to modernizing workplace systems, increasing construction productivity, and improving customer service. The Chamber has long encouraged the need to explore self-certification programs in the San Diego region, as it is a way to streamline the permitting process for residential and commercial development, and it can help minimize the delays. Self-certification can help create new affordable and middle-income homes and even solar projects faster. And we're glad to see the creation of a working group which includes industry stakeholders as a recommendation as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on the items on the consent calendar.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Can you please call the vote?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Supervisor Anderson. Aye. Supervisor Desmond. Aye. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Aye.
And Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present voting aye.
Okay. The next item is item number 8. We're going to move to discuss, notice public hearing for 2023 Housing Zoning Ordinance Update, PDS 2022-22004. I will hand the floor to our county team for a presentation.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Vargas. Today's staff is requesting that the Board of Supervisors adopt the 2023 Housing Zoning Ordinance Update. The purpose of the Housing Zoning Ordinance Update is to align the county's zoning ordinance with new state laws designed to make it easier to produce housing of all kinds in response to the statewide housing crisis. These new state laws will contribute to the county's goal of removing barriers to housing production in unincorporated communities. As part of this project, the county will be addressing 21 previously adopted bills that came into effect in the past several years. When it comes to these state laws, the county has limited discretion. We cannot be more restrictive or add additional requirements, but can take steps to go beyond the state in terms of streamlining and creating flexibility to build housing. The county is required to implement these laws whether the zoning ordinance is updated or not. The county complies with all new state laws as they become effective and provides interim guidance, documents, forms, and applications to assist applicants in navigating new state requirements. This update also increases clarity for permit applicants and implements 4 actions included in the county's housing element. It's important to note that not all housing bills passed over the last few years are included in this update. Some new housing laws do not modify development standards or require land use changes that would require the county to change its zoning ordinance. The bills included in this update were organized within 3 categories. The first is housing production, which includes changes to regulations that make it easier to create small single-family homes and accessory dwelling units. Second, affordable housing development, which includes updates and additional incentives for affordable housing. And thirdly, housing for people experiencing homelessness, which streamlines the process for low-barrier navigation centers, emergency shelters, and supportive housing. The presentation will also provide an overview of staff-conducted public outreach during this update and will provide information on future housing legislation updates and the development feasibility analysis. We will conclude today's presentation with staff recommendations for the housing zoning ordinance update.
In recent years, the state has taken steps to create more opportunities for middle-income housing. This includes new rules that allow small lot subdivisions and development regulations for housing like townhomes, new policies to make it easier to build mid-size multifamily housing developments of 3 to 10 units, and changes to ADU regulations to make them easier to build in more places in the unincorporated area. Assembly Bill 803 provides property owners with the opportunity to subdivide their lots and develop small-scale, multiple-family housing. Currently, dividing properties into smaller lots is limited in some locations due to current development regulations. This law, along with Senate Bill 478, allow the creation of more middle-income housing and ultimately provide more opportunities for first-time home buyers across the state and unincorporated areas. The state has provided additional flexibility for ADUs so that more properties can accommodate them. This update addresses 7 of these laws. ADUs provide a valuable source of housing since they can help lower housing costs and are easily integrated into existing neighborhoods and infrastructure. The county took this opportunity to reformat and reorganize the ADU section of the zoning ordinance to make it more user-friendly and clearer for applicants to understand. The county has been implementing these new ADU regulations through fact sheets and guidance documents. In addition to state law, the county has created pre-approved ADU plans and waived development fees, and there's been an increase of 320% in issued ADU permits compared to 2018. The county's current density bonus program allows for additional housing units and provides incentives in exchange for affordable housing. These incentives can help offset the cost of providing affordable units and are determined on a project-by-project basis and can include allowing taller buildings, larger building areas, reduced parking, and other waivers of development standards. The county's density bonus program allows for one additional incentive beyond the state's program. Since 2020, the county has seen an increase in the number of projects utilizing the density bonus program and is currently processing 5 projects. This update increases density bonuses for student housing, housing near transit, and 100% affordable housing projects. Senate Bills 1227 and 290 made student housing developments eligible for additional density bonuses and incentives. If 20% of the units are provided to full-time, lower-income students enrolled at an accredited college or university, the project is eligible for a density bonus of 35% and one additional incentive such as increased building height. Any accredited college can leverage this ordinance and provide student housing in the unincorporated area. Assembly Bills 1763 and 2334 provide additional density bonuses and incentives for 100% affordable housing developments. To qualify, 100% affordable housing developments must reserve at least 80% of the units for lower income housing, which is 80% of the area median income or below, and can include up to 20% of the units for moderate income housing, or up to 120% of the area median income. If a 100% affordable housing project is located within a VMT-efficient area or 1/2 of a mile from a major transit stop, the project is eligible to receive 4 development incentives to provide flexibility and reduce costs for developers accommodating affordable units. The project is also eligible to receive unlimited density and 33 feet of additional building height, or up to 3 additional stories to the existing site's building height maximum. If the 100% affordable project is not within either of these areas, state law already allows the project to be eligible for 4 incentives and an additional density of up to 80% of the maximum density allowed. Additional changes have been made to mixed income housing developments as well, such as Assembly Bill 491, which requires that a development with both market rate and affordable housing units provide all units the same access to common spaces. Additionally, affordable units cannot be separated or congregated on certain floors or in certain areas within a development. The update also includes changes to parking for housing developments affiliated with religious institutions, such as housing built by and close to a house of worship. Religious institutions would be allowed to use up to 50% of their existing parking to meet the parking requirement for a new affiliated housing development. Finally, for new affordable housing changes, any demolished affordable housing units would be required to be replaced at the same affordability level in the new housing development. This ensures that any affordable units lost to redevelopment are included as new housing is built.
The county has already exempted county-owned, operated, and leased housing for people experiencing homelessness from the zoning ordinance provisions. The state has adopted new laws to streamline the process for private and nonprofit businesses to build these developments, which include low-barrier navigation centers, which are temporary, service-enriched shelters that help unhoused individuals and families to quickly obtain permanent housing. Emergency shelters, which is housing or shelters for persons experiencing homelessness. This is a type of temporary housing that is limited to occupancy of 6 months or less, and supportive housing, which is permanent rental housing with no limit on length of stay and that is linked to on-site or off-site services that assist the resident in retaining housing, improving their health, and maximizing their ability to live and work in the community. While there are 27 permanent supportive rental housing units currently in the pipeline, and the county provides 350 hotel vouchers for families and individuals experiencing homelessness, there are currently no emergency shelters or permanent supportive housing units for people experiencing homelessness in the unincorporated area. Currently, low-barrier navigation centers must go through the normal discretionary project review procedures required for this type of development. AB 101 allows low-barrier navigation centers as a use by right in mixed-use zones and non-residential zones that allow multifamily. By right means no discretionary review or hearings are required for approval of a project, and a building permit can be issued if the project meets all objective zoning and design standards. This leads to faster approval times, often 12 to 24 months faster than the discretionary approval process, and makes the permitting process less costly for developers. Mixed-use zones refer to zones where both residential and commercial uses are allowed in the same zone. This includes most of the commercial and village zones in the unincorporated area. Previously, the Fallbrook, Alpine, and Ramona Village zones were still included as other mixed-use zones in the draft version of the ordinance. To improve clarity, staff added all applicable village zones to identify where by right approval of low-barrier navigation centers apply. If a county project were planned, staff would first identify a community with proportionally high and consistent need using the best available data on the number of individuals experiencing homelessness in that community. Staff would then identify appropriate sites served by transit, employment, and services, and work alongside the community through outreach during the site planning phase. Assembly Bill 139 requires the county to identify a zone where emergency shelters are allowed by right and removes any discretionary review requirements for emergency shelters in industrial zones where they are already currently allowed. Similarly, Assembly Bill 2162 requires the county to allow supportive housing by right in all zones that allow for multifamily housing. The outreach effort for this update engaged a diverse set of stakeholders and community members from around the unincorporated area. Notice for all county-led webinars and informational meetings were translated into 9 different languages with interpretation services available for each meeting as well. During the public review period in January and February of 2023, staff held 3 public workshops which were open to all community members both before and during the public review period to receive comments and answer questions. During this public review period, staff also met with community planning and sponsor groups, beginning with the quarterly All Chairs meeting, and sent offers for presentations to all community and planning and sponsor groups. Staff presented to Valley Center, Ramona, Twin Oaks, Fallbrook, and Sweetwater at their meetings by request to receive input. Staff also met with a range of stakeholders representing the building industry, labor unions, environmental groups, farmers, and housing advocates during the public review period. Finally, in June 2023, staff held a series of 4 regional information meetings throughout the county with both virtual and in-person meeting options to inform the public about the update and to connect attendees to resources on how to get involved in the state legislative process. To conduct these regional information meetings, Planning and Development Services coordinated closely with an interdepartment team that included Housing and Community Development Services, the Department of General Services, the Office of Homeless Solutions, and the Office of Economic Development and Government Affairs. These meetings were held in person in different regions throughout the unincorporated area to provide a range of opportunities to learn more about the update. Staff from each of these departments and offices helped to prepare noticing materials translated into all threshold languages for the public and attended the meetings to help present information and answer questions from members of the public. During the outreach events, participants were asked to provide input on the proposed updates and to share their feedback or questions on housing topics important to them. Staff received questions on how ADUs are defined, regulated, and their impacts to physical infrastructure. ADUs still require building permits to be constructed and must meet requirements for water, sewer, and other development standards in order to be built. Residents shared comments about density bonuses and the impact of additional density on unincorporated communities. All projects are still required to go through the regular project review process and mitigate potential project impacts. Community members also shared comments about by-right development for housing facilities for people experiencing homelessness, such as low-barrier navigation centers. Staff explained that all by-right development still has to align with objective design standards. Staff also outlined the process for determining a need for this type of housing in the unincorporated area and the community engagement process if the need for one of these facilities was determined. Staff also heard about building housing in the right places, near infrastructure, transit, and jobs, not in rural areas far from supportive infrastructure and in areas of high fire risk where home insurance rates have increased or insurance is no longer available. Staff explained that the county is highly focused on building housing in the right places near existing infrastructure, and many new state laws are required to be implemented outside of high fire hazard severity zones. Lastly, residents expressed the desire to conserve open space, parks, and trails in the unincorporated area as new housing policies take effect and housing continues to be built. Staff emphasized the county's commitment to preserving open space and explained that nothing in the bills included in this update would allow development in open space or the conversion of parks or trails into housing. While not all comments during these meetings pertain specifically to the update, staff informed attendees with broader housing concerns about housing projects and programs currently underway and connected them to staff overseeing these programs so that the feedback could be more adequately addressed in those efforts.
This housing zoning ordinance update was heard by Planning Commission on February 17, 2023. The Planning Commission recommended that the density bonus provisions for 100% affordable housing projects be expanded from half-mile to 1 mile of a major transit stop. This is shown on the graphic on the slide. Increasing the range of density bonus from 1/2 mile to 1 mile would be limited to the area near Buena Creek Sprinter Transit Station, which is the only major transit stop in the unincorporated county. The Planning Commission recommended adoption of the 2023 Housing Zoning Ordinance Update with this one additional recommendation. Staff agrees with the additional recommendation by Planning Commission because it expands incentives for affordable housing near the only major stop in the unincorporated area. Over 100 housing bills have been passed by the state legislature in the past 5 years, and more are currently under consideration in this year's legislative session. There are many moving parts related to housing, and staff is working to combine these items together in the most efficient way with the best use of public resources. Staff will continue to engage the public and inform members of the community when county housing efforts are aligned with state-led housing legislation. To continue this outreach, a new housing legislation team was approved by the Board of Supervisors in May 2023, which identified short, mid, and long-term actions to facilitate the construction of housing and remove barriers to housing production. Staff is also working on the development feasibility analysis to determine how housing legislation could be leveraged to increase housing production in VMT-efficient and infill areas. In collaboration with the Department of Public Works and the Department of Environmental Health and Quality, Planning and Development Services will include an infrastructure gap assessment beginning in selected unincorporated communities in VMT-efficient and infill areas: Buena Creek, Lakeside, Casa de Oro, and Spring Valley. This effort will be consultant-led and will include significant public input to identify how to best address barriers to housing production. For example, the development feasibility analysis will determine what, if any, infrastructure investments are needed to support additional housing in these communities. Staff is currently working to secure consultants to support this effort and will continue to update the board on the development feasibility analysis project as other housing-related items are brought to the board in the upcoming months. Staff requests and recommends that the Board of Supervisors find the proposed 2023 Housing Zoning Ordinance Update complies with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and state and county CEQA guidelines, and that the Board of Supervisors adopt the 2023 Housing Zoning Ordinance Update, incorporating Planning Commission's recommendation with the expanded geographic application of the density bonus for 100% affordable housing projects. This concludes our presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and go to public comment and then conversation with my colleagues.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 5 total requests to speak, 1 individual in person, and 4 requesting to speak by phone. I'd also like to note for the record, we did receive 2 e-comments on this item. Both were in favor. For any member of the public that requested to speak on this item by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using those instructions that were provided to you. I'd like to invite forward Truth. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
There's truth. This item claims that government is a pyramid scheme. Quote, the county is required to comply with new state legislation. These updates are mandatory. Non-compliance can result in the county losing state grants and being subject to litigation, end quote. So if that was true, then why are there local laws? Remember from the Declaration of Independence, free and independent states. Why would you guys want to be state puppets? But you know, I like the honesty that you won't get the state checks anymore, and then the state will sue us if we don't implement their garbage. But here's my solution. Be honest with the people and tell them that in order to oppose state law, it will require donations and volunteer lawyers to fight their frivolous lawsuits. And if every county and city did this, this state would be in a powerless position. But in this world, to make things worse, county staff is working on projects to go beyond state law. I got news for you guys. Nobody wants government projects in cold, sustainable slate gray, or more ADUs towering over people's backyards. Has anyone seen the new development of the Grantville trolley stop? It's literally about 6 feet away. It's maybe affordable, but it's definitely annoying. Any fool that moves there will never sleep with the trolley noise. So this new anti-real housing zoning ordinance implements 21 new state garbage laws, such as another Housing First Solutions Last Shelter program that wants to shove addicts into housing, allowing places of worship to develop stack and packs with religious use parking reduced by 50%, and ADUs no longer having limits on their size, right at the front of a house, allowing the sale of an ADU separate from the house, imagine the future conflicts there, increasing ADU height up to 25 feet, some parking eliminated, allowing an ADU and a junior ADU to be built on the ashes of a single-family lot or zone. So I'm going to have to say, start making it affordable to actually build real single-family homes that people want.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted, and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we will begin with our first caller.
Consuelo. Gosh, now I totally get why you guys can't keep staffers today. I hope the staffers get what they're really doing and who they're actually working for. It's not for the people of the county. Staffers are working to support the effort of fulfilling UN Agenda 2030, the epitome of minions. They buy up homes and land because it ensures your reliance on them. They inflate the economy to tax you further. They keep you sedated with bullshit so that you don't realize what's happening in the world. They buy up homes and land because it ensures your reliance on them. They inflate the economy to tax you further. They keep you sedated with bullshit so that you don't realize what's happening in the world. They buy up homes and land because it ensures your reliance on them. They inflate the economy to tax you further. They keep you sedated with bullshit so that you don't realize what's happening in the world. They buy up homes and land because it ensures your reliance on them. They inflate the economy to tax you further. They keep you sedated with bullshit so that you don't realize what's happening in the world. Did I mention that they buy up land and homes because it ensures your reliance on them? They inflate the economy to tax you further. They keep you sedated with bullshit so that you don't realize what's happening in the world. They buy up homes and land because it ensures your reliance on them. They inflate the economy to tax you further. They keep you sedated with bullshit so that you don't realize what's happening in the world. They buy up homes and land because it ensures.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Paul Henkin, density bonuses, which is recommendation 2, allow more housing units in a development for including homeless or affordable housing, stack and pack city. This will result in uneven development, which I don't think is what we want. I think we want coordinated development, not only near transit, but near schools, shopping, parks, entertainment, and so on. And did I hear the presenter mention waiving standards? Perhaps it's stack and collapse. A mile is not really near a transit stop, by the way, if you have to walk. A lot of the county housing projects take me back 700 years or so. If you're building departments approved plans for public housing, you need proper setbacks. The projects you guys are approving these days with the street but often little to no setback and the next floor projects out and there are stacked windows which project out even further, look more and more like the image of Middle Ages town with houses leaning over the street. Will something like this happen here? The tenants can almost shake hands with their cross-street neighbors on the top floor. And the more housing units that are packed into a small area, the greater will be the transmission rate of the next plague. And you'll be able to hear your neighbors, by the way. Please, as long as you're moving people around, provide quality housing. Encourage these people, these homeless, these low-income people, encourage them to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I wanted to call up and say thank you to your staff for doing all this stuff. Just a little bit of something that wasn't exactly correct. Senate Bill 2 in 2008 required you guys to put forward areas where emergency shelters are allowed by right. And in 2010, you actually did that. But you still required people to have expensive site development permits. And so, this is like 15 years late. It's happening now, which is great. So that's something. One thing I saw there is that you guys said it'll take 2 years before you actually put a shelter in the unincorporated. When you could put in a shelter immediately. You have been studying this for years, where shelters could be put in. And so I would like you to try to put in a shelter in the next month, not in the next 2 years. And then, one location where everybody knows you do need a shelter is in Lakeside because it's right by throughout the San Diego River. And you guys now have money to take people out of the riverbed, which would be great because, it's for a whole bunch of different reasons. So I request that you direct your staff to find a location in Lakeside immediately, not in 2 years, and put up a emergency shelter somewhere there. And then also, we still need to have more clarification and a process so that people who want to put in, let's just say, trailers or emergency shelters in the backcountry, we still need to be able to see how they could get their pump stations for sewer like they would have at a like at a mobile home park. And so the other thing I want to mention is Monica Ball from Uplift, great work on Yes and God's Back Order.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Bing, bing. This propaganda update was brought to you by the United Nations Agenda 2030. I would like to give that a warm handoff because this is totally bogus, you guys. But I mean, a really good job following, what you're supposed to do. I don't understand how people can listen to this and it's like density, density, density. We're going to be on top of each other. There's not going to be any space to breathe, but then we're going to preserve the open space. We're going to have that preserved. And all of us, though, need to be in these areas that are just so densely packed that it's like the zoo. I would like to subdivide your guys' office space because you guys need to be, more equitable in that, and we don't need to be wasting all that space for you guys. But it's so smart because, Sandag is going and buying up all the cheap property right now in the unincorporated area. They're looking at property taxes because then they can up the rates of everything, displace everybody, and pretend to provide affordable housing just for some of them, like 25% or something like that, even though they displaced 100%. But it's good because then you guys can build your densely populated stuff out in the unincorporated areas and make everybody have to do it as well. So exactly what Consuelo was saying is so true, but, I'm not sure if you guys heard it enough. So it's just interesting that, people don't quite see what is happening. And the more that they, push this and thank you guys for doing this, I mean, we're going to be like a bunch of ants in like a little tiny area, and you can't leave. You're a little 15-minute zone. So, people need to wake up because this is literally just the most terrifying thing, and I don't understand why people don't see it. It's good. But as long as, we preserve open space for, just some butterflies and stuff, it's probably better, we need to have everybody just, right on top of each other. Or it's like...
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. Let's see, I'm happy to make a motion to support this item, and I'll make some comments in a minute, but is there a second? Second, and then Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. And I want to say thank you very much to staff for all the hard work you did on this update. And I do appreciate the additional outreach you went to Valley Center and to Fallbrook in my district and met with the planning groups and sponsor groups. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, unfortunately, I think, government regulations, even though they're good intentioned, possibly, but I think the consequences of all these regulations has really created the crisis, the housing crisis that we're in here today. And I know we have to align our code with state law, and I agree with many of the additional housing opportunities here, but I think at some point we got to push back on some of these one-size-fits-all policies that we get from the state. Most troubling to me for my constituents are the low-barrier navigation centers, basically shelters, being allowed by right in the unincorporated area commercial zones. And I do appreciate staff's comments and your willingness to work with people on those particular sightings if and do they come about. But I just think this shelters by right and throughout every village in the unincorporated area it isn't going to sit well with people. And yes, we have a housing and a homeless crisis we have to deal with, but this is what the biggest concern that I had and I heard from my constituents in the unincorporated areas. I do agree with the Planning Commission and they're extending that half mile to a mile zone around the Buena Creek area. And I know staff is already working pretty hard on, I know there's infrastructure and road alignment issues there, and this may make that effort bigger or have more area to look at, but I think that's a good idea. That's our only transit stop there. So I have deep concerns concerning this and the navigation centers, and so I appreciate the opportunity to voice my opinions on this. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to comment because I think it's really important. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you. The state has passed laws with the goal of making housing more affordable and accessible to a variety of income levels. And I wish they didn't have to do that in so many cases because people with goodwill would just say, sure, let's create homes and let's just get it done for those people who are in need. But unfortunately, that's not how the world works. And so it's really important for our legislators to create, a framework for us to be able to address the needs of our region in particular. And so I know that to make it easier to produce housing of all kinds is really what they're trying to do, and we are in a housing crisis. And it's important to address that. Even the items that are up before us today, the county zoning ordinance really is about coming into alignment with the state laws that we're required to implement, and we have a responsibility to do that. And so I want to thank the county team for their extensive outreach efforts to inform our communities about what the state laws mean for all of us locally. It was actually my colleagues who asked for this to happen. And so I want to thank our county staff from the Office of Homeless Solutions, Department of General Services, Housing Community Development Services, the Office of Economic Development, Government Affairs, and the Department of Planning and Development Service for their collaborative work on this project. But I also want to publicly apologize to you for some of the harassment, the behavior from some of the individuals in some of our communities and the way they treated you, including my staff member, Andrew Harvey. I think as public servants, we run for office and, people can come up here and say all sorts of stuff. 2 minutes, 1 minute, they follow me around. It's okay. It is what it is. I chose to do this work. But I don't think it's okay for people to do that to all of you. So I am so frustrated and really, really upset that that happened to all of you. I think I'm really angry. I sent a note to all of you, but I wanted to publicly do this because I just think it's so wrong that you all work so hard and that people would try to harass you and be vile in their behavior. Is just so inappropriate. So with that, I wanted to tell you that not all people in Bonita are like that, that there's a lot of really good human beings, a lot of good individuals who have a lot of really good things to say. And the reason why we do public testimony, the reason why we do public comment is because we want the communities to participate. We want public input. I ran for office. I gave up a really, really good job to do this job because I love my community. I want people to have input, but because for so many years, people were not included in the decision-making process in the county of San Diego. And all of you are doing a fabulous, fabulous job. And I cannot thank you enough for going out there and for, I know many of you didn't feel safe. And I know I'm gonna hear from some of these folks and they're gonna, say whatever they say. It's fine. I'm the elected official. I can take it. I ran for office and I'm running for election and I'm going to do this and I'm going to continue to do the great work that our communities deserve. But I personally just wanted to say I'm really sorry that you had to deal with all the harassment and the vile comments and to see that people almost got, to a place where it was just, really just horrible. And many of the members of the Bonita community wanted to make sure that you all know that, that's not who they are. And so I wanted to just personally thank you and say that during my comments because you all went out there because we asked you to do that. Thank you for gathering all the information. Thank you for doing such a fabulous job in creating these themes and saying to us, this is what we've heard. I really appreciated that the community said, we want to make sure that the parks are kept, that the green spaces, all of that. It was really, I think, really important. And I will make sure that I don't, I go with you next time so that I can have your back because it's really important that every county employee knows that we have your back and that we're not going to allow anybody to treat you disrespectfully or harass you, especially not on my watch. So thank you again. And with that, we have a motion and a second. Unless there's any other discussion, please vote.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Supervisor Anderson? Supervisor Desmond?
If you'll indulge me, Chair, I was going to vote no on this thing, but there's some good things in here. So I'm going to vote yes, but I voice my adamant opposition to the low barrier shelters allowed by right in the commercial zones in the unincorporated area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Yes.
And Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas, yes.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Thank you. Now we will go to the non-agenda public comment. Clerk, can you please call the remainder of the public speakers?
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We do have 9 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. All of those are coming via phone. For those that have requested to speak via phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you, and we will give you a moment to do so.
I didn't mean to cry. You're welcome.
Now we will hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video streaming before they begin speaking, and we'll begin with our first caller.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and I'm calling you asking for help. We need help. We need help from the County Board of Supervisors to challenge our Mayor Todd Gloria because he's misinterpreting state law and he's actually creating more homeless people that you guys are in the county are responsible for. Specifically, the 26 homeless women with serious mental illness that are going to be kicked out of the old East Street Library because Todd Gloria thinks that you can only have shelters open for 180 days out of the year, and for some reason they have to close after that. When the law has been changed to allow them to be open for 130 days or until December 31st, 2024. Please, somebody, please call me so I can show you exactly what he's doing. And the next big thing that we need you at the county to do to override Todd Gloria is look at what he's trying to do with the 20th and D shelter. He's trying to, there's people who want to allow them to have showers. And instead of calling the people who have the free showers, their staff is not even calling them. Please, somebody intervene. We don't have anybody in District 4 anymore in downtown that can do this. You know, my supervisor, Chair Lawson-Remer, you're running for office. Why don't you do something for these poor people? The next thing is that each of these tents require them to have a 4-inch platform. It costs about $100 for the wood from Home Depot. You could actually get volunteers to go down there, even the little ducklings from the Lucky Duck Foundation, to build these platforms. This would be a great thing for children to do in the summertime, to build these platforms so that these tents can stay open and not have to shut down at the end of December 24th. And then also for the Golden Hall, that's 500 beds. I'm trying to close.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippett. I'd like to encourage this Board to make protecting children and youth its highest priority. Children get one chance to grow up, but we are failing them as never before. We have ignored our border, allowed cartels that began as marijuana traffickers to cross with impunity, now bringing drugs like cocaine and fentanyl. Liberal drug policies have also allowed human traffickers to exploit prioritizing marijuana taxes over the public good. Political contributions and corruption of our electeds have been the result. Over 152,000 unaccompanied minors crossed our border in 2022. This month, a 14-year-old was rescued at Camp Pendleton, having been sold by a trafficker for sex. An explosion in unaccompanied child migrants and child labor have resulted from porous borders. Indentured servitude is the price smugglers demand of trafficked children. The genesis of many of these problems parallel drug legalization policies like marijuana legalization. We have lowered or eliminated deterrent drug crime penalties and rebranded those selling drugs as victims without any empirical evidence. What benefits can be cited from increased marijuana availability, accessibility, and promotion of commercial marijuana now accompanied as now proposed in the unincorporated lands? It is time to look beyond attempting to regulate a harmful drug, falsely claiming that it's that's capable of reducing or eliminating the black market. We need public information campaigns to warn of marijuana harm instead of billboards promoting it. We need evidence-based prevention that focuses on root causes instead of attempting to regulate harmful drugs.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Paul Henkin, climate change happens, but I want you to pay more attention to how the government and powers that be distort reality with their misinformation and scare tactics. You cannot simply take it at face value anymore, declare a local state of emergency. On July 6th, there was a news article from MSNBC that July 4th was the hottest day on the record. There were two things wrong with it. First, the average temperature was 62.9 degrees, meaning that the picture of people gulping cold drinks to cool off was true for certain people, not all, and possible even for a minority of people. And this may be news to some, but it is summer. Second, the records only go back to 1979. Yet you have a so-called scientist saying other data sets are looking farther back, but they showed the heat record was warmer than any point since instrumental measurements began. And probably for some time, long time before that as well. Probably follow the science. So while a simple analysis would reveal that the situation is not as dire as stated in today's I want it right now society, the difference can be millions wasted on an illusion, scare tactics, and more or less trust. Please don't make that mistake. And thanks for allowing our input, but you need to listen and show it. You apparently don't, and that is why we are so angry, frustrated, and we need to be acknowledged. And the people of Benita.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
So your guys' whole gun violence shenanigans yesterday by using the child that was shot by her brother, that's a tragedy, but you guys, that's not gun violence. And someone shooting themselves with a gun and killing themselves is not gun violence. Gun violence is when somebody goes and opens fire in a school or somewhere, something else. But you guys think that, you know, a lock will keep someone from killing themselves. It isn't. They're going to find another way. If they don't use a gun, they'll do it by other means. And people need to be teaching education about guns, that they're not just a toy. So that is a problem when if you have a gun in the home and you have children and they think it's a toy and you're not teaching them, it doesn't matter what age they are, that this isn't a toy and that they need to understand the power that comes with it. That's where it comes in, not just locking your gun so that if somebody comes in and is robbing you or trying to rape or murder you, you can't even get into it, but they have the upper hand. You guys wouldn't be just teaching kids in school what to do if somebody comes in. Instead, you should be arming the teachers, teaching more people about how to use these as opposed to taking them away and giving people less opportunity. When that happens, then crazy stuff goes on. But the point is that you guys want to take everybody's guns. You sit here and act like that's not going on, but it's the truth. Before you guys and all of these officers were gotten rid of because of all of the mandates, they were telling people they're coming for your guns next. Pay attention. And now we have people that are left that are going to be the ones coming after us for our guns. Like Tara said, there's more guns than there are people in this nation, and there's a reason for that. and we need to keep on to those, because otherwise we have no way to protect ourselves, and you guys are the ones that come after us, because you guys have officers who are fully armed, fully protected, going after.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. Yesterday I had an opportunity to tell you about an invite to do a presentation on vaping for a countywide parent organization. I wanted to follow up with some reasoning behind why it's important to have these vaping presentations. In the world of public health, we understand, especially those of us who work with young people, that drug use 90% of the time begins before the age of 19. And the drugs of first use are alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana. Usually within the ages of 12 and 13 is the inception of drug use. And so it's important that our youth and our parents receive that sort of information. We have done a great job in the county regarding alcohol. We have a very energetic binge and underage drinking coalition that meets monthly and has for 20 years. We also have an extremely robust tobacco prevention organization, and we have a fledgling marijuana prevention initiative. But what we have found, those of us who have worked on these three drugs for our young people, is that now marijuana is used more frequently than tobacco in a 30-day period of time. And the 30-day period of time is sort of the gold standard of looking at the progression of drug use, what we used to call addiction, and now we call SUDS, you can believe, which is substance use abuse. Or in the case of marijuana, it's CUD, cannabis use disorder. And the focus has become, what are the messages that young people are receiving that make them think that alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana would serve any purpose in their use, in their life as they journey through adolescence into adulthood? And what can we do to disrupt these?
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Yes, good morning. This is Peggy Walker, working public health. A speaker earlier this morning questioned why those opposing marijuana expansion do so, and because, as one speaker noted after her, that it's the gateway to all drug use, because we see daily the harm it wreaks on young people to age 25, and because increased accessibility normalizes use and means more young people have access. And many start use as early as age 12, suffer negative physical and mental outcomes. You see all the harm tobacco has wreaked, but marijuana does the same with more dramatic psychotic effects and more physical effects. Vaping has become the most favored means of use among teens and young adults, using concentrates that are not like the marijuana their parents on at 10%, dangerous mind-altering THC concentrate up to 97%. THC at any level interrupts natural substances important to normal brain development and prefrontal cortex development in the brain. This impacts how the brain builds connections, leading to impaired learning and memory, and affecting sound decision-making and how we control emotions and impulses. Many of us have seen on a daily basis the horror of young addiction, sometimes leading to IQ loss, dropout, ruined futures, and disrupted and bankrupted families. Too many young college-age users find it messes their minds, resulting in suicide by those who simply cannot deal with the addiction or suffer psychotic breaks and schizophrenia as a result of use. The tragic outcomes are costly in lives, treatment, and family disruption. Use leads to other drugs.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning.
Thank you. With that, the session is adjourned.
The next regular meeting of the board will take place on Tuesday, August 29th at 9 a.m.